she was with me on this experience the whole time, all throughout it. So like she really lived this with me. Yeah, she was, you know, she's a person who shows up for you, and I'm so grateful to have that love and that support.
It's at a point where like something can be about me, like my name can be in the actual headline, and it can still be none of my business.
Okay.
Like, people can be out here, people might be out here doing too much.
Just shaking ass.
Doesn't mean I have to do a damn thing.
Yeah.
We live in such a social media moment.
Taylor Swift just shook the internet once again, and this time it isn't only about her music. It's about possible shade, broken friendships, and hidden messages that fans swear are hiding in plain sight. She announced a brand new album, and while stans are already dissecting every tiny detail, the real chatter is whether one of these songs might be about her longtime bestie, Blake Lively. For years, they looked inseparable, but whispers are growing that their friendship quietly fell apart behind the scenes, and Swifties are in full detective mode trying to connect the dots. What really set the rumor mill on fire was Taylor's rare sit-down on the New Heights podcast, because she almost never does interviews. Showing up on her boyfriend Travis Kelce's show had everybody locked in, and fans swore they caught subtle shade and careful wording the second she started talking. It felt like Taylor cracked the door to her private world the way she usually only does in her lyrics, and that alone made people freeze the frames and replay every sentence. The numbers were crazy, 5.6 million views in 5 hours, and even the podcast's Twitter admitted, "We hit a glitch," while shouting out the 92%ers and the Swifties for literally breaking the internet. Right there in the middle of the hype, Taylor dropped a bomb. Her 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, complete with cover art and a full track list revealed on the spot. Immediately, one title lit up the timeline, Ruined the Friendship, sitting at track 6 like a neon sign daring fans to guess who it's about. Track 10 is titled Cancelled, and that only turned the theories louder because timing is everything in the Taylor universe. Here's the context fans keep repeating. Blake didn't just hang with Taylor socially, she was woven into the art. Blake directed the I Bet You Think About Me video, which many fans still call one of Taylor's sharpest visual stories. Blake and Ryan Reynolds' daughter even voices the word gorgeous at the top of Taylor's track Gorgeous, which tells you how close these families were. That's why the idea of things falling apart hit so hard. This wasn't a surface-level friendship for the camera. This looked like real life. The podcast added fuel because Taylor explained that the new songs came from what she felt after shows during the Eras tour.
And the reason I wanted to have it sort of like an offstage moment as the main album cover is because this album isn't really about what happened to me on stage. It's about what I was going through offstage. So it's like I didn't want to have like the lights are bright, I'm on the stage as the main album cover. It's just this to me tells more of what the actual contents lyrically of the album are. I wanted the album to feel the way my life felt, and this completely matches the way that my life has felt. And I also wanted it to be just every single song is on this album for hundreds of reasons, you know, and you couldn't take one out and it be the same album. You couldn't add one and it's just right. And that focus and that kind of discipline with
the late-night headspace after the lights went down. The Eras tour ended in December, which makes the timeline tricky because the loudest whispers about tension with Blake didn't really heat up until March. And yet, everyone knows Taylor edits fast and writes in real time, and she even rolled out that orange door as an Easter egg at the last show to mark a new era.
Taylor Swift reportedly addresses her friendship breakup with Blake Lively in her new album. You'll know by now that Taylor Swift has announced her new album, The Life of a Showgirl. And one thing about Taylor Swift is she loves to talk about her life in very vague Easter eggs throughout her music. And it's now being reported that she'll take this approach to include some very subtle Easter eggs about her fallout with Blake Lively. An insider said, Taylor is in a good space right now, but there was an awareness that she couldn't ignore the drama. There are Easter eggs in the new album about how she overcame the drama with Blake, and she does in her own way address people who believed her relationship with Travis was a PR stunt. You might remember that Taylor Swift was dragged into Blake Lively's legal battle with Justin Baldoni. Justin named the singer in legal documents and even temporarily subpoenaed her. There was then reports coming out that Blake Lively had allegedly tried to pressure Taylor Swift into taking a side. Insiders claimed that Taylor Swift felt used and exploited by Blake Lively, and that she allegedly felt that Blake was trying to use Swift's fame to try and get more support for her case. This apparently led to the breakdown in their friendship, which, like I said, is going to be addressed through Easter eggs, and knowing Taylor, it won't be much. It'll probably be a little line here or there, and the fans will get to decide if they think it's really about Blake.
So the big question becomes simple. Was the album already locked, or did she slip in a late song that speaks on a friendship that went sideways? Now, rewind to where the Blake drama really started bubbling. Last summer's rollout for It Ends With Us drew backlash, and people said the promotion felt off. By December, the story exploded when the New York Times reported Blake had filed a complaint against co-star and director Justin Baldoni, accusing him of harassment and a toxic set. She alleged boundary issues and inappropriate behavior on set, and the claims sounded heavy enough to stun the whole timeline. Justin didn't sit back. He came out swinging with a $400 million defamation countersuit against Blake, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist, saying they were trying to destroy his name. Overnight, a buzzy book adaptation turned into a courtroom saga, and everyone in Hollywood started paying attention. Then Taylor's name got pulled into the mess, and that's when things flipped from movie drama to pop culture earthquake. Justin's team subpoenaed Taylor, arguing Blake leaned on her superstar connections to push for script rewrites and pressure decisions. Filings even referenced a text where Blake supposedly called Taylor and Ryan her dragons, meaning the people who protect her when conflict hits. Taylor's camp shut that down quick, saying her only involvement was licensing My Tears Ricochet, just like 19 other artists who licensed songs for the film. They made it crystal clear she had zero say in casting, rewrites, or production, and that she didn't see the movie until weeks after release. That clapback felt like a line in the sand. Don't use Taylor's name to spice up your case, but the allegations kept stacking because Justin's side claimed Blake went further, allegedly threatening to leak years of private texts unless Taylor publicly supported her. A lawyer letter described a 1-hour call on February 14th where an insider said Taylor's counsel accused Blake's lawyer of straight extortion. Another claim said Blake had asked Taylor months earlier to delete their text history, which only made the whispers louder. At that point, Swifties and gossip pages erupted, because if true, that's a nuclear option that risks a decade of receipts for one clean headline. People started asking if Taylor saw this storm coming and planted a warning inside Ruin the Friendship without naming names. Fans went back through the last year grabbing screenshots of outfits, jewelry, and nail colors to look for Easter eggs pointing at a friend-turned-opponent.
Taylor Swift's new album isn't even out yet, and everybody's already over song lyrics, which don't exist yet publicly, but we do know titles. And I think we might be getting more than one song about Blake Lively. Yes, more than one. The obvious, Ruin the Friendship, but also Canceled, and Opalite. Opalite makes so much sense. If you don't know, opalite is a man-made milky translucent glass often used as a more affordable alternative to natural opal due to its similar appearance. In other words, opalite is cheap and fake AF. Like a former fake friend. Obsessed. The album's not even out yet, and I'm that person. Also, the album, The Life of a Showgirl, comes out on October 3rd, Mean Girls Day. Coincidence? I think not. Taylor Swift doesn't do anything by accident. And if you did not know, People magazine reported this week that Taylor and Blake are not talking. Taylor wrote Bad Blood about Katy Perry. Taylor wrote Better Than Revenge about, what was the name of that one actress that JoJo just dated? I think we're getting 3 or more songs about Blake Lively. At least one, or 2 or 3 or 4. Could that song, The Fate of Ophelia, also be about Blake Lively? I don't know. I'm obsessed. Taylor is very smart. Taylor knows that if she gives the people what they want, tea as well as bops, hits, it will just be this big ball of momentum where the music will get things going and then the drama will just help and fuel interest in the music. I mean, Ophelia did go cray-cray in Hamlet. Just saying, it could be 4 songs. And also Wish List with the dollar signs. Maybe Taylor felt used. Rightfully. 5 songs about Blake.
They noted when Taylor's social likes stopped appearing under Blake's post, and they clocked the absence of certain mutual hangouts everyone was used to seeing. Body language breakdowns from old red carpet clips started circulating, with people claiming you could feel the shift in the way they hugged or stood next to each other. Is that overanalysis, or is that classic Swiftie sleuthing catching something real? Nobody can prove it, but the pattern matching never stops. Then came the plot twist that had everyone gasping. The insider source helping Justin's team was reported to be Taylor's dad, Scott Swift. Tabloids said Scott didn't want Taylor dragged through legal mud for months, so he cooperated on a deal to get the subpoena for Taylor withdrawn. Some people praised it as smart protection from a parent who knows how brutal litigation can be for a brand, especially one as visible as Taylor's. Others said it looked messy because it put the Swift family on the opposite side of Blake, at least on paper. Either way, Scott's move raised the stakes and made the alleged rift feel very real to fans watching from the outside. In court, though, the judge tossed the sensational claims as inadmissible and improper, calling them irrelevant to the core case. Legally, that meant the so-called bombshell evidence did nothing, but in the court of public opinion, the damage was already baked in. Once people start to believe a friendship is broken, every silence becomes a statement, and every lyric becomes a clue waiting to be decoded. That's why Ruin the Friendship feels like gasoline on a rumor that refuses to burn out. And track 10 canceled adds its own layer because the word lands right on Blake's PR nightmare from last year, whether Taylor meant it or not. Zoom out and you see a familiar Taylor pattern. She rarely fights in interviews, she writes, she records, she stages the message, and she lets the art speak. Think about Bad Blood, which turned a private industry conflict into a giant cultural moment with a single hook. Think about All Too Well, where details became daggers and fans connected names without being told. So if she did experience a friendship that cracked under pressure, turning it into a track is exactly on brand. Now let's talk timeline math, because that's where this debate lives and dies. The tour ended in December, the Orange Door teased a new era, and album planning would have been deep by then. But Taylor has a history of late tinkering, swapping track orders, polishing bridges, and sliding in fresh lines that reference things only the close watchers catch. If the deepest rumors about Blake and Taylor really hit in March, is there still room for a last-minute song or a surgical lyric change? Absolutely, because Taylor's rollout machine is precise, but it isn't frozen. It's agile enough to pivot when life hands her a plot twist. There's also the optics angle. If Taylor felt used as collateral in someone else's legal fight, that alone could inspire a song that talks about boundaries, loyalty, and public pressure. And if a friend really asked her to delete years of texts, that's the kind of moment that writes a chorus by itself. On the Hollywood side, PR teams worked overtime trying to control narratives, and you could practically see the fingerprints. One outlet would stress Taylor's limited involvement with the film, another would spotlight Blake's complaint language, and a third would amplify Justin's countersuit number because $400 million grabs attention. Meanwhile, everyone pretended not to read the subtext. Taylor wants out of the mess, Blake wants support, Justin wants vindication, and the internet wants a villain. Ryan Reynolds' silence became its own subplot because he's usually the king of lighthearted trolling, and this time he went quiet. People read that quiet as strategy, either standing with Blake in private or avoiding a clash with Taylor in public. Even Travis Kelce's name got thrown into the storm on fan forums, with people asking whether Taylor's comfort on his podcast meant she was ready to speak without speaking. All of this makes Ruin the Friendship feel bigger than a track title. It feels like a thesis statement about what happens when real life, celebrity power, and legal drama collide. Swifties have even built lyric predictions, imagining lines about screenshots, dragons, doors, and after-show confessions that echo the podcast theme. They predict a tight, catchy chorus with a resigned punch, something that says, "We were good until the world got invited," or "You asked for silence and then weaponized the noise." Whether those guesses land or not, the expectation has already created a listening lens. People will hear what they're primed to hear, and Taylor knows that better than anyone. There's also a Carly Kloss theory branch, arguing that Ruin the Friendship could stack memories from more than one breakup, blending timelines and faces into one composite story. That would be very Taylor. Protect privacy by merging experiences so no single person gets fully exposed while the emotion stays honest. At the same time, some fans argue the track might be about a totally different friend or even a professional relationship that soured, and Blake discourse is just loud because the headlines were recent. That's a fair point. Correlation isn't confirmation, and it's why Taylor's music sustains debate without ever needing a press conference. Back to Blake for a second. Her public image took a hit during the "It Ends With Us" storm, and this alleged threat to leak texts, if it happened, would make things worse. Even the hint of coercion lands badly with audiences in 2025, especially when it involves private communications and a superstar who wasn't part of the alleged behavior on set. That's part of why Taylor's fans felt protective, framing Scott Swift's involvement as defensive chess rather than betrayal of a friend. Parents get ruthless when their kid becomes a target, and in celebrity lawfare, the fastest win is often the clean exit, not the loud victory. As for the Orange Door, people keep circling back to that stage prop because Taylor's Easter eggs are never random. Orange can speak to caution, a warning, a threshold you can't cross twice. A door can be a boundary, a goodbye, or a reveal waiting on the other side. If the life of a showgirl is about what happens after the curtain falls, then a friendship ending could be the most after-show story you can tell. Picture the scene, makeup wiped off, phone buzzing, lawyers calling, and a text thread you can't unread. That's the kind of midnight moment Taylor writes for the ages. Zooming out again, the cultural stakes are huge because female friendships in pop culture get idealized until they crack, and then the crowd demands receipts. Taylor has spent years building a universe where her friends are part of the mythology, on stage, in videos, in liner notes, and in little cameo moments fans treasure. Losing one of those pillars, if that's what happened, would shake the lore, and that's why this conversation feels bigger than the average rumor. It's not just are they cool, it's did we misread years of symbolism, and that question hits every corner of the fandom. For balance, let's remember the obvious. None of this is confirmed, and speculation can snowball into certainty if you stare at it long enough. Taylor's own words about headlines dragging her into stories she didn't cause were careful, and that caution matters here. She might be telling us to calm down, or she might be creating cover to tell the truth in the music. Both can be true in the Taylor playbook. Either way, the album will decide the narrative in the end, because lyrics have a way of settling debates no interview ever could. So here we are with the million-dollar question. Did Taylor turn a broken bond into a breakup anthem, or are we projecting drama onto a clever title because the timing feels spicy? When the track list becomes the soundtrack, we'll finally know which lines cut and which ones were just coincidences, and that moment will be loud. Until then, I want to hear your take. Does Ruin the Friendship point at Blake, blend multiple stories, or is the internet reaching because it loves a showdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like and subscribe if you're locked in, and I'll see you on the next one. Let's crack open the track list a bit more because titles are the oldest clues in Taylor's universe and she knows exactly how fans read them. If Ruin the Friendship sits at 6, that's a powerful slot. She tends to bury emotional gut punches in the first half so the second half can process the fallout. Fans are also watching where Cancelled lands at 10, because the back half is where she often flips the script and turns defense into control. Some Swifties think there will be a run of 3 songs that tell one story from different angles. One about private conflict, one about public pressure, and one about reclaiming the narrative. Others think Showgirl as an album theme means we'll see the hard truth of performing a calm face while chaos swirls backstage. If so, A Broken Friendship would be a core chapter because best friends are the people who see the unedited version when the spotlight turns off. Fashion is a language in Taylorland, and the fandom has been translating looks for years, so don't be shocked if people decode color palettes, jewelry, and props once the visuals drop. Remember the snake to butterfly shift from the Reputation era to Lover? She stages personal evolution with iconography that fans can map. An orange door could mark a threshold, but the room behind it might be where boundaries get drawn, secrets get locked, and trust gets tested. Meanwhile, media coverage created 2 different movies. One where Blake fought a toxic set, and one where Justin fought back against a smear, and Taylor's name got used as a prop in both. That split screen matters because it explains why her comment about headlines felt pointed. She was the headline without being the story, and that gets old fast. PR teams love a shiny object, and a megastar like Taylor is the shiniest object in the room, which is why both sides tried to drag her gravity into their orbit. From a strategy angle, Scott Swift's reported move makes sense. Clean exits protect the brand, protect the tour film value, and protect the rollout window for a new era. Drawn-out subpoenas would have fed weekly news cycles, and Taylor's entire business model relies on controlling the timing of her reveals like clockwork. That's why drop the subpoena and we'll share what we know reads like a trade to regain control, even if it looks messy on the surface. There's also a human layer here. Being asked to publicly pick a side in a legal fight is a stress test for any friendship, let alone one lived in headlines. If those dragons messages are real, then the expectation wasn't just support. It was force, leverage, and public power, and that crosses lines for a lot of people. Taylor's brand is friendship as sanctuary, not friendship as pressure cooker, and that difference could be the crack that turned into a fault line. On the flip side, if Blake felt abandoned during a career-level crisis, she might see Taylor's silence as betrayal, which is how good people end up on opposite shores. That emotional math is classic breakup song fuel, even when the breakup isn't romantic, and it explains why the fandom is bracing for a hook that stings. Now consider how the New Heights appearance fits into all this because choosing that platform was chess, not checkers. She spoke on a show she could trust with hosts who adore her, and she could address negativity while keeping it broad enough to avoid legal landmines. That way she could be candid without being cornered, and the audience would carry the subtext where she didn't need to spell it out. The result was predictable, clips went viral, captions did the rest, and the headline machine ran itself while she stayed calm and controlled. From a craft perspective, expect a bridge that flips memory into metaphor, because that's Taylor's superpower. She can take a text thread and turn it into a stage set. Expect a line that sounds like a DM you shouldn't have sent, a voicemail you shouldn't have left, or a screenshot you wish you could unsend. Expect production choices that echo the theme, maybe room tone, backstage noise, or a crowd hum that fades when the truth lands like the lights just cut out. If Showgirl is the concept, the sound design will trace that walk from spotlight to silence, and that's where a friendship confession would hit hardest. One more angle fans keep raising is Carly Kloss because people love a sequel and a mirror. A composite song would allow Taylor to protect privacy while telling the emotional truth, and that's exactly how she dodges turning art into a legal brief. At the same time, she might leave breadcrumbs that only the people involved would catch, which is her way of being honest to the memory without naming names. That's why the guessing never stops. She writes for the public and the private at the same time, and both can be right. Last thought before the album lands. Be careful with certainty because it's easy to mistake timing for proof. Headlines blur together, screenshots lose context, and the loudest theory isn't always the truest story. Taylor warned us about that on the podcast when she talked about being attached to narratives she didn't cause, and that warning deserves respect. Still, music is where she tells the story she wants to last, and when track 6 drops, the fandom will listen like detectives and feel it like diaries. Whatever happens, this will be remembered as the era where Taylor put the after party on record, the private reactions, the tough choices, the boundaries that held, and the ones that broke. So I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.